Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bikini and the Brain. I am the Bikini,
And
Adam,
I'm the brain.
and I'm here with the lovely brain, Ashley Kaltwasser.
Hi.
And today, I think we have a great topic, which Ashley hates when I say we got a great topic. I
Hey
just realized
everyone, we've got a good topic for you today. Unlike the others that were just mediocre, this one's good.
And well, this one's good because it is a lot of like how you are. You know, it has a lot. You have a lot of personal insight into the topic about being honest with yourself, which is basically where the topic is today. Being honest with yourself in all things prep, and I think that you're very honest with yourself, almost sometimes too much.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
I think so too. I think I try to be very realistic, and I think it just naturally I'm a realist, whereas some people will look on the bright side of things. Some people will be pessimistic, optimistic, and then there's me that's more realistic in the middle somewhere. Whereas even if somebody's trying to hype me up, like, oh, you're going to win the show or whatever, I'm like, well, I'm going to try. We're going to see. There's a lot of talent in the show. I'm happy about what the package I'm bringing, but I don't know if it'll win. We'll see.
What's really funny with the, and this is not just you. This is like, I think I've only seen like one bikini girl not do this. But whenever they do those like Olympia press conferences or they do like any guy interview, like you'll do a guy interview all the way from men's physique to bodybuilding, the guys are like, oh, he doesn't look good this year. Like I've been working hard. Like I'm gonna win this. I'm gonna destroy this. And like they're always like super hypey. They'll even take off their shirts sometimes. And then the girls, they're like you'll ask one girl to another, and then they'll be like, yeah, well, she looks really good. We're going to see. She's done really great work. It's anyone's game. And it's funny because they're always trying to like hype up the girls, and the girls are never like, they're never like that. They're always like, well, we'll see.
Oh yeah. You know what? I don't hype up others though. I will say, like, if I'm being interviewed, it's like, I don't know. It makes me feel weird to talk about somebody else. Like I just like in my own path, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I should. Do I sound like I'm too?
No, I don't think,
harsh?
you know what? Not too many people do, unless they're directly asking. I don't think anyone really does. They'll ask her, what do you think about Ashley? Like to someone, and then they'll be like,
oh, I see what you mean.
They'll be like, oh, well, she's been looking really good. She's had a great season.
Okay. Yeah. Like if somebody directly asks me, okay,
never
then
just like,
because I wouldn't just throw out names out of the blue.
Yeah.
Well, it's sometimes, I guess I do sometimes. I don't know. I just feel weird talk about people.
It's just funny how the differences of the bikini and the bodybuilders. The bodybuilders will like go out of their way to like call someone out. And it's, to create like they just have fun with it. It's like they almost troll each other really hard.
That is such a big difference.
It is.
That really is. We kind of just either hype up others or just keep to ourselves. I'm more of a keep to myself kind of person. Not to say I wouldn't like support somebody, but like, I don't know. It's something I don't think about when I'm being interviewed to talk about other people. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
That's funny. So I like this topic because it talks about, being honest with yourself. And as a coach, and you're a coach too, but also as an athlete, I think you can kind of confuse yourself. You can kind of start creating like belief that you are doing everything and you're like, you are doing enough. You're like, no, I did everything, but really you didn't. And you have to be you have to be real with yourself, be honest with yourself. Right now, like for me, right now I'm training to be like I'm a regular fit guy. Like there's no, if I was saying to myself, oh yeah, I'm going to prepare for a men's physique competition right now, I would have to be honest with myself. Like you're not training hard enough. You're not eating good enough to even consider that right now. Like you need to step that up, way up. But some people in their off season will be like doing what I'm doing right now, which is, regular fit guy stuff or regular fit girl stuff. I'll be like, I'm going to be an Olympia. I'm going to be the next Miss Olympia. And I'm like, no, the regular Miss Olympia doesn't do that in the off season. They're not just like regular fit guy stuff and then Miss Olympia type training for 16 weeks only throughout the year, right? That's your actions have to match up with your goals. Mm-hmm. So if your goal is to be the next best one, well, we talk about that day capturing thing, every single day matters. And you have to get your next day needs to be better than Ashley's next day if you want to beat her, right? That type of thing. And then the more days you accumulate that are better than her missed days, then the more likely you are to beat her the next time or type of thing. And that's how every day should be looked at if you want to be the best. But you have to be honest with yourself about that. You have to be honest with yourself about that. Your goals have to line up with your expectations. That's with all things in life,
Mm-hmm. I think that's a really good point you made. Like your work has to align with your goals, right? Because a lot of people can say anything, and they can say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But what they're doing behind the scenes, does it really align with the goal that they're trying to present, So I've mentioned on here before, like, one of my biggest pet peeves, and it's like, it just really bothers me when people will talk the talk but not walk the walk.
Yeah.
Do you know how many times people say, oh yeah, I'll be better, I'm going to start my diet next week 100%, blah, 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 and they don't. And then it's like, 1 week, okay, 2 weeks, but it's like a repetitive thing. You keep saying you're going to do something, but you don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be better. I'm going to be the best. I'm going to work so hard, but when it comes down to it, the person who's, talking all the talk messes up all the time. And it becomes like a habit of just messing up, apologizing, maybe not apologizing, but excuse giving, apologizing. You get the idea.
Yeah.
Whatever reason they couldn't stick with the diet or whatever. And it's like, better off just not saying you're going to be 100% then. Like, because words are fluff, right?
Yeah.
I don't want you to tell me. I want you to show me. Don't tell me how you're going to be better. Show me you're going to be better. It's like one of my biggest pet peeves. I hate it.
Yeah.
Just save the mushy, like, poetic, like, I had to find myself this week. Like, just do it. Or not say anything at all.
Yeah.
I hate it so much. I hate it.
I love that. I love that.
Fluff words, and
Yeah.
you line them in a poetic way, and it makes it sound like lessening the blow. But no, you're not doing what you're saying you're doing when it comes down to it.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you.
Like, yeah, because people waste your time sometimes as well, right? You probably feel it.
Yeah, it sucks too, because you wanna find a way to, like, help them, but at the same time, I've done this so long that I've done this so long at this point now that I've realized that people really do have to do it for themselves.
Yeah.
And you really can't be like, oh yeah, you can do this, like, and like be their motivation. Like, if you're it's really hard. You got to find the motivation from within. Right. And it's hard because when a coach says that, you're looking at them sometimes, because some of those people who aren't really strong-minded are looking at that coach for maybe that motivation, but it doesn't work. It has to come from within. Like, it has to come from within, because they're just sending you, telling you what to do. They're going to tell you, send you a video that week. Say, hey, this is what you need to do. This is why you need to do it. Here's your menu plan change. Here's your map. And that's the coach's job, is to create the map of success. Your job is the job to do it in the gym, to, when they're not watching, to work out hard, to do that extra rep, to do that extra set, to do the extra credit. Ashley did her check-in today. She's like, I did extra credit cardio because, maybe I'll compete, she's competing in the Arnold.
Maybe I'll compete one day.
maybe I'll, she's like, maybe I'll compete a little early if I get in, better shape, that type of thing. So like, it's, I didn't ask her to do that, so it's like extra credit cardio, Anya did that the other day too. She's like, I did extra credit cardio, just in case. And it's like, I didn't ask those things, And so it's those are the people who are, excelling and climbing, right? Climbing the ladder. And so it's, you could see it nonstop. The people who are climbing are the people that aren't stepping back so far. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem, is that you see is I'll get those check-ins or whatever, where someone might, disappear for a week or two. They didn't do their check-in or something. And then they'll come back like, oh, I just needed a mental break. And then, which I'm fine with. I'm totally cool if someone needs a mental break. And I agree with that. And actually, like, I had a minor surgery done the other day. And it was like, they said I had to be out of the gym for like 5 days. And I was like pissed about it. And I was like, I just want to be back in the gym. I'm back in the gym. And Kimber's like, don't get back in the gym. You're going to make yourself sick. You're going to open your wound, whatever, right? And so like, fine. So I waited 4 days. And then like day 5, like I was just kind of stupid in the gym because I was like waiting to get back in. And I was so much stronger in the gym. Like, I was so much stronger in the gym. Probably lifted weight I shouldn't have lifted, but I just felt good from having those 4 days off. So I totally agree with, once in a while, take it, right? But here's the thing. Very, very few people actually need it when they say they need it. They're just doing it because they are convincing themselves that, oh, I needed this mental break. Oh, I needed to go and cheat on my diet for a whole week. Yeah. Because I needed to reset my mind, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at is like, if you're going to mess up, own up to it. Don't make it sound fluffy and nice and just be like, oh, I had to, or excuse, blah, 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 blah. No, I think we would both appreciate honesty. Like, just say, yeah, I just, I was cranky in a bad mood and messed up. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I love those ones, actually. I prefer it.
Yeah, honesty is the best answer.
Hey, I messed up. can I diet hard this week, kind of make up for it? Like I'll get those ones. I'm like, yeah, you know what, we can go for a diet week if you just had it. Why not? You know, so.
But I understand the break part too. No, I get that.
Yeah.
It just the excuses I can't, deal with as much. It's just like, come on, man. And like I said, if it's 1 week, okay, 2 weeks, okay. But if it's an every week thing, it's like this person is almost like convincing themselves that they're unable to do something and are giving these excuses, not reasons, but like straight up excuses. You know what I mean? And that and it happens with anything, like not just even referring to, contest prep, but this happens like with life in general. Just excuse, and reasons to justify the excuse.
Yeah, and I think, and it's to be like, I'm not trying to be a little harsher, but the reality is that not everyone's made to do this, and if you're that person, you got to be honest with yourself about it. You got to be like, hey, like I don't have my why isn't greater than my how at this point, right? So if your how is, hey, you got to stick to your diet for 16 weeks straight, no imperfections whatsoever, because you're just not that person who's got great genetics who can get away with those cheat meals, whatever. But your why and your reasoning of why you want to do it isn't greater than your how you have to do it to get there, then maybe it's not for you. Maybe you got to look at finding that motivation or finding your reason of why again. Like, why do you want to do this? And you got to really ask yourself that. And you also have to ask yourself, is what I'm doing, is it enough to get to my goal? Like, do I think it's just going to be handed to me because I am doing 90% of the work? Because the problem is when people put in 90% of the work and 90% of the diet, they expect to get 100% of the results. Or sometimes they even expect to get, maybe 90% of the results. Like, well, I'm putting in 90% of the work. Well, if you put in 90% of the work, you're likely going to get 50% of the results, maybe even worse, because that 10% is a huge factor when it comes to what we do. That working 10% harder in the gym to your 100%, you doing your cardio at 100%, you following your diet, especially at 100% versus 90%. It's a huge difference in terms of the results. And I think people think, what if I do mostly good, I'm going to get that, I'm going to be on the Olympia stage next year. And I'm like, that's really not the way any sports work. It's not that our sport doesn't work that way. It's any sports work that way. There's a lot of factors that go into it. And unfortunately, 90% is not going to be there. So you're, in the off season when you're, 90% and you're having a macro meal throughout the week and things like that, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that that's perfectly fine. In season though, when you get these people who are like, oh, I just needed that, that meal. I had a wedding to go to and I had to eat the cake. I had to do this, be part of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I've been to tons of weddings where I'm not pulling out Tupperware, at them, but like I'm eating perfectly fine on them if I have something, if my goal is worth it to me, So, and that's the problem too, is that you run into with like, I don't know if it's the same way everywhere, but definitely in the US, we always have something going on. There's always a party. There's always a friend's birthday, a wedding, a this, a that, we have like, there's probably a holiday today. It's probably like National Wear Pink Shirt, Eat a Donut Day, It's like there's always something that people are celebrating US where it's food related.
Yeah.
So
totally. And something too is like, see, with that scenario, if somebody messed up on their diet because they went to a wedding and ate cake, so the proper response would be like, you know what? I shouldn't have done it. I gave in to temptation. It was there and I had a craving and I messed up, rather than, oh, I had to eat it because it was the only thing available and they kept tempting me to. See, I think there's a big difference between those two explanations, because once you get in the habit of making these excuses to justify why you did it rather than just like owning up to it, it can cause you to do more of it. And suddenly you're just making excuses for everything. Oh, I couldn't work out today because blah, 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 blah. Versus, yeah, I was lazy today and I was tired and I shouldn't have done it, but I skipped the gym, because if you don't catch yourself, you can start believing your own lies and excuses, and it just becomes one after another, and you're not going to get anywhere. It's always better just to own up to it. Don't make it sound fluffy. Don't make it sound like it's something you had to do because of this. Just be honest with yourself.
Yeah, and I think part of it is when you do it enough, you're kind of training your mind that it was okay.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. You're justifying him. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and after a while, I think that you start believing it. I think at first, you're lying to yourself, but after a while, I think you start believing it, and then that becomes a real problem, because now your mediocrity is you at 100%, and it's like you're never going to get anywhere that way. You know,
Right.
you're just never going to get to where you want to get to that way. And then you're going to burn yourself out because you're never getting anywhere. So yeah, I think that's the biggest issue. And we talk about those, I've talked about it in the past too, like with the boxers. I always use boxers as an analogy. I guess I just love that sport. There was a good fight this weekend too, which is another good analogy this weekend about not giving up. We'll have to use that one. But but like there's this thing in boxing that they talk about, and they talk about like a warrior's mindset, whatever. And there's this thing with Mexican boxers. This is like they have like heart of champions. It's like this whole thing with like Mexican culture and boxers. And one of them is that, you know, you never quit. Even if you're going to like die in the ring, like they never quit. They put this warrior's mindset into them, right? And that's why they have these other boxers. They call them like they have all these like, they're like, they'll troll them like other people and they'll wear like sombreros and stuff. We call them like the Mexican killer or something like that. Like they'll come up with these names to like troll them because their spirit is always talked about with those guys. And the reason that they have that like mindset when they grow up and they teach it to you in the gym, they teach it to you, you know, it's better to death before defeat, you know, type of thing. Like if you have to, you never quit, you know? Right. And the reason is that they think, and it's true, they've seen it, like when someone gives in once, you know, they give in once and that, then the next time they're fighting, they're in a tough fight, they're just more likely to give in the next time. And once they give in again, and it's like, you're more likely to give in the next time. And you just see them fade in a fight versus like fighting for their life. Like if they just think of every fight as life or death versus, okay, I can just throw in the towel this time, or I can just quit this time and then I'll fight again another day type of thing. But so they really instill this into their mindset. And I use that a lot because it's so extreme, you know, like there's times where you should quit. Like there's times where guys are like they just don't have enough, like, it's dangerous, you know, right. But that's just the mindset. They train these guys and like you'll see them. And I've seen a few times where a guy is just getting destroyed in a boxing match. And it's dangerous. It's at a point it's dangerous. And then the trainer will throw in the towel and be like, you know, trainer throws in the towel, that means the fight's over. And the boxer like runs to his corner. He's like, no. Like I could have him. Okay. Like, dude, you're going to die. Like we have to do it. But it's their mindset is so much self-belief that even in the worst case scenario where the trainer like has to throw in a towel, they still think they have a chance, you know? And It's like, that's an extreme example, but it just shows you the spirit, like the warrior spirit of where you can get if you train your mind the right way. You know, that doesn't happen right away. You know, if I went into the ring and fought a guy right now and I was getting beat up, I'd be very happy to quit, right? I'd be like, okay, I'm good. You know? But that over the years and years and years of teaching these young men, hey, it's death before defeat, you know, like that is everything in there. And once you go into these little tiny things, you start building that warrior spirit of your own. Even though this sounds crazy, it sounds extreme. Even though you're just saying no to the food at the wedding, even though you're just saying no to the little cheat meal or the popcorn at the movie theater with your boyfriend, right? And the no to the little handful of whatever. Like you're training your mind to be tougher and tougher and tougher. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. You're not justifying it by saying, you know, oh, I just quit because you know, it was dangerous for me to keep fighting, right? Type of thing. You're saying, oh, it was just a handful, you know, and you justify it. Oh, it was just this. Oh, well, it was a wedding. Oh, it was this. Oh, I just pushed my prep back because I didn't get there in time because I was cheating 3 times, 4 times a week on my diet, but I'm not going to admit that because I was only just this much, right? So once you start having these little wins and these little battles, you become tougher and tougher and tougher. And then you get to this point where this is the funniest thing, when you get to that point of being so mentally tough where you don't want to cheat, then people start calling you weird, right? Like they'll call us that all the time. You know, it's funny. I'll get it all the time. They'll be like, oh, well, you know, I want to live my life, you know, type of thing. I'm like, I don't know how I'm not, like, I'm just not eating. Like I eat something once in a while. I'm fine with it, you know, like, and it's just, I've trained myself for so long to do that. Now It's not like really giving up that much. I don't feel like I'm really giving in that much, you know, like, and so, it's a thing that you could do. You train your mind, and people like you now, like you're so trained that people look at you and they're like, oh, she's not living her life. And, oh, she's not. And you even just saying that shows weakness of where you're at with your dedication to the sport. If you're a competitor. Now, if you're a regular person, you see Ashley and you say that, I can understand that you would think that because you just don't get it. But if you're a competitor and you're saying that, it should be something you admire. It should be like, man, I wish I could be that dedicated. But because it's so much adherence to a diet, they're like, oh, I want to live my life. Almost, it's the same thing. It's like justifying. Yeah. It's like how we're talking about. They're justifying having a meal. Oh, I had to. They see you doing perfectly, right? And then they're like, oh, I want to live my life. It's like giving themselves that leniency, right? Yeah. That same type of, oh, well, she's doing it wrong, I'm doing it right type of thing, right? Because no one wants to admit, I wish I was that dedicated. So it's a mind game. And I think that we talk a lot about the physical things, the nutrition and all these things, but a lot of the mind stuff, we dabble into it. But this one is, I think, a really, really important one because it keeps girls from succeeding long-term, especially like in things like the off season, which is obviously the biggest one, you know?
Totally. And even if let's say they're giving in to these temptations and making a lot of excuses along the way and they still do well, it's almost like, well, you could have done a lot better and you'll never know.
Yeah.
And back to what you're saying is what you were saying about like, oh, I want to live my life. People that will give you a hard time for, eating healthy and doing your prep thing. It's like, I don't even think a normal person has to think that way. I think it's anybody who's mediocre will think that way, regardless of what sport they're in, regardless of what profession they're in. Because I will say this, like, although, like, let's say a professional chess player or something, although I don't think for me that would be fun, I can understand why they dedicate so much of their time. Maybe they sit down 5 hours a day to play chess. Although I could never see myself doing that and I would never want to do that. I understand, like, whoa, this person's super ambitious and passionate about what they do and they want to be the best they possibly can be. Although I can't do that and I wouldn't want to, I can still understand why this person would. So I would never say to that person, oh, I just want to live my life. I don't want to sit down that long. You're weird. Like, so I don't even think it's necessarily a person that's not a competitor that would say that, but just a person that just, to be honest, they're just probably really mediocre. Either that or they're your family and they're like jealous that you're not giving them enough time or something, or they don't understand that you're not starving yourself. But, you know what I mean? So I think it's just like people that will give you a hard time for that really shows like how average they are.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
It does. It's funny. We talk about that too. Like people, anytime you're outside of the norm, people try to pull you back into the norm, and it's like, and they'll use names and try to make you feel like you're doing something wrong because you're out of the norm. But no one normal ever did anything great. You know what I mean? Like you look at like Elon Musk and everyone's always talking smack on that guy. Joe Rogan, everyone's always talking. I mean, you're putting yourself out there in a different way. People are going to be kind of, it's going to make people realize their own weaknesses and realize their own lack of ambitions and stuff. And people are threatened by that. And so they come up with these reasons. And I think maybe some of this is internal for some people where they call it, they talk about that imposter syndrome, right? Where you're starting to be different and you're starting to be better and you're starting to be this robot machine of bodybuilding and you're scaring yourself and maybe you're trying to keep yourself back from being the best you can be. Maybe there's some of that in there. I don't know. Yeah. But I see it a lot as a coach. I do see it a lot as a coach where people and it comes down to mostly the diet. It's always the diet. I don't think too many people are struggling with getting the workouts in. I don't see that being really that big of an issue. Almost everyone gets in their workouts, whether they're fully intense workouts or not. I don't know 100% because I'm not there, 100% of the time with a lot of the athletes. And so it's hard to say that part of it, but I can say no one's being like, oh, I missed 3 workouts this week. Like that's pretty rare. It's usually like 1 because of a travel or something, a flight. Like, I understand that. But the food is the one where it's constant, and it's something that I've always struggled with understanding as a coach, just because I grew up in bodybuilding. And so it's the mind, it's just hard. It's hard for me to understand. It really is hard for me to empathize with it and understand because I grew up not around like the regular thing. My family would make me a separate meal. And then, even when we went to my grandma's house and then have these big meals for family and all this stuff, they'd be like, oh, don't eat that. That's Adam's chicken. And it was like, chicken breast or whatever, like it was always, for me, it's always been just so normal and I've so trained that it's not hard. So I just don't really understand it so much and empathize with it. But there's a lot of foodies, there's a lot of foodies, and especially in bikini, actually in bodybuilding in general, I guess I'd say there's a lot of foodies. Like it's like a big thing. You always hear about that, people like scrolling through Instagram and getting all these food things and cooking and all this stuff. And I'm trying to find more empathy with it and find more, more of that. But also I think the younger athlete in me too, and growing up with coaching, the coach is like, just do it. What are you talking about? Like, any type of thing. Like, it's just so black and white. It's like there's just no gray areas. Just stick to the diet. Just do it. So, I guess you grew up pretty much similar in terms of, not in the bodybuilding part of it, but in the nutrition part of it, being really strict to your diet. How do you get to that point of stopping making the excuses And how do you get to where you're at with that, you know?
Well, I don't think I've been as strict as you were as far as eating, but I've always been athletic, and in sports I was a gymnast and track, but in those sports they're not really restrictive of what you can eat. And I remember even as a track athlete, it was like a thing, like have a spaghetti dinner, big spaghetti dinner the night before, so you have enough carbs. You ran off carbs, but so yeah, I get how people can be foodies, and it's like, you know, you have cravings for some things. And I think it's just out of habit. You eat certain foods, and maybe as a child you had certain foods, and then into adulthood, and it's almost like having to do 180 for some people to eat foods that maybe they didn't initially find that appetizing in comparison to what they have been eating. So it's like a big shift, like, you know, just kind of I always say you got to retrain your taste buds. Like, you eat it enough and you figure out how to cook it in a way and season it in a way that you like, and even sugar-free condiments. Until you figure out what you like, it's hard to, like, not want the old foods that you've always ate, whether that be like a Snickers bar or popcorn or anything like that. So I think a lot of it's just breaking habits, and, you know, not being open to trying, you know, the healthy food, because they think, oh, automatically when you in your mind compare like a healthy food to like a candy bar, you're going to want a candy bar. But it's almost like you have to be willing to, you know, just give it a go, stick to the diet for a few weeks solid, and maybe after some time you're going to crave the healthy foods once again. So
yeah, it's an interesting thing, taking that leap, you know. And it's funny,
yeah.
the other day, my buddy James, he put up a post about balance, right? It was like, we're talking, because everyone always talks about balance. Like, everyone always talks about it. He was like basically saying, you know, when you're in season, most people are pretty strict to their diet. Very few people are messing up. But then in the off season, people just basically eat whatever they see.
Yeah.
For long periods, 2 months at a time, put on 20, 30 pounds. And then they call that balance. They're like, oh, I just needed to have a balanced life. It's like, that's not balanced. Like, you don't have one extreme of dieting crazy, crazy hard and one extreme of eating crazy, crazy hard, basically, and then call that balance. You know, that's the farthest thing from balance you could be, is those two different things. It was a great point, right? Because we always hear this word balance in our world. And I think that's something that, I think it is something that we could strive for, but also we have to look at the goals. You know, is the real goal to be a pro? Is that the actual goal, and why, right? Or is the real goal, if you're a pro, to be on the Olympia stage? Is that the real goal, and why? And you have to really ask yourself that and find that reason why, because your actions will have to match that 100% of the time, you know? So, balance you're not going to have the most balance in that scenario. I was watching last night, it's like one of those sports documentaries where this guy was running a decathlon, which I didn't know how intense that was, the decathlon. That's crazy. I guess it makes sense now that I know, but it's 10 events. I didn't know it was 10 events. I was like, I guess that's why they call them the athlete, like the most athletic person in the world who wins the decathlon, right? And I was like, am I saying it right? Decathlon, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I didn't know it was 10 events. And this guy was training every day, 6 to 10 hours a day for 4 years, from one Olympics to the next. No breaks. I'm sure maybe a day or two, whatever, but all day, every day, 6 to 10 hours. And I was like, man, you know, that guy doesn't live a balanced life, right? In our world, we would say that's extreme. It's not balanced. And it's extreme. It is extreme. But the goal is extreme. Like the goal of winning an Olympic gold medal is extreme. And he did. He won an Olympic gold medal. And it's like, you know, your actions have to line up with your goals. You know, people, and I always bring up, you know, Joe Rogan, Elon Musk too. Elon Musk he was working 60 plus hours a week, and they're like, oh, he's not living a balanced life. He's got, you know, his goal was to, you know, be the best entrepreneur in the world and fly to Mars. You know, like, of course it's not going to be a regular 9-to-5 job. Like, of course it's not going to be regular work output. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Why would it be regular, you know? And so, I think that we have to look at that, you know, how and why would getting to the Olympia stage be easy? Like, how would it? Like, how would it? You're talking about the stages that the best in the world have done. You've read their books. You've read Arnold Schwarzenegger's book. You've looked up to Ronnie Coleman growing up, and Ashley, you know, growing up. You've looked at these things, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do that regularly. How? Like, it doesn't make any sense, you know? Even as like a, you know, playing, just playing hockey at a high level, there was no balance in that life, you know? And so I just feel like we have to be real with ourselves. This whole podcast is like, be real with yourself. And you really do have to face that. You have to face that fear. Okay. And look at yourself in the mirror and be like, okay, is my goal really to get a pro card? Is my goal really to get the Olympia stage? Or am I just a fitness enthusiast? There is nothing wrong with being a fitness enthusiast, and I am all for it. I love when I get like a transformation client and she's super honest with me and she's like, yeah, I'm not trying to be the next Miss Olympia. I just want to get on stage and be my best. Like a year from now, I want to be on the stage and look like I fit there and maybe I can win. I'm like, you know what? That's a badass goal. Let's do that. You know, let's do that, you know? And that person might not want that extreme, right? But a lot of the people that are listening to this, like they say they want it, like you're talking about, but they don't actually want it. They say they want
their work doesn't equate to the goal. And how many times do I always say this, Adam, and how many times am I right when I say it? You'll tell me something that somebody says that's, you know, a pretty big goal, and I'll say, Adam, that's what they all say.
You've been right.
How often am I right?
You've been right. I would want to say,
I'm like, Adam,
I think you've been
right.
That's
what they all say.
I think you've been right every time.
So, you know, it just goes to show you a lot of people can say they want it until they figure out the work that goes behind it. And then that's when they start to rationalize, make those excuses. But in order to accomplish an extraordinary goal, you have to put in extraordinary work. And stop yourself from these silly excuses. Yeah. Like, stop. That's not, because excuses don't equal results. They don't. So if you have an excuse, find a solution, right? There are some valid excuses out there, but most of the time they're BS, okay? You know, it's just silly. And the people that are doing these extraordinary things, do you think they're making excuses to justify why they couldn't do this or that? Do you think Elon Musk is saying, oh, you know, I couldn't, I was feeling tired today and I just decided to stay home. You know, think about the most successful people, or even not even the most successful people, but I'm sure everyone in their life has somebody that's achieved something super amazing and extraordinary. And think about how many times you've heard them make excuses, you know. I bet you not a lot. Versus the people that will say they want this and this and this. The funny thing is the people that will talk the biggest games oftentimes are the ones that make the most excuses. Yeah. The fluff excuses.
For sure. Yeah. And it's easy to go there. You know, it's easy to go there and make yourself like,
it's almost like you're making yourself feel better.
Yeah. You know? It's almost like someone's patting you on the back, like it's okay. Yeah. Like, it's okay. Like, don't, you know, for not putting out that effort. Like, it's almost like your mom's like, it's okay, son, here's some chicken soup. Like, when you do it, it's so, you know, and it's easy to go there. You know, I'll have my days here too. 'Cause my goal years ago was, you know, to be the best there ever was and create something that no one's ever done. Right. And like, as a coach, as a trainer. And that's a lofty goal, and it's very hard, and it's very time consuming, and it beats you up, you know? And I've had a couple periods where I'm like, man, I'm just like exhausted, you know, like it's so hard, you know, to do this. And then I'll have my week or my few days or whatever. And then I'm like, dude, what are you doing? You're like you're in such an awesome position to keep it going. All you need to do is just keep your foot on the gas. You don't even have to do anything more. Just keep your foot on the gas. That's it. You already have everything there. And so like and that's where you guys are at too. Like, if you're already, you know, in prep and you're already getting into the better shape, you just have to keep your foot on the gas and not go backwards, you know? So it's hard though, you know, it's a hard thing. We all struggle with it, I think. But if I gave myself the excuse of that, then this, you know, it doesn't just like slow down. It like crumbles very quickly. And so I always think of that too. I almost live like kind of paranoid of that too, because that's the same thing with the physique, you know, you're making all this progress, and we've all seen it, you know, one off season and that girl is just non-existent again. You never see her on stage again. And it's like, you know, she put on 30 pounds and now she's not willing, the fire's not there, just a little bit less than it was before. And then she's not willing to do what it takes to get her back into shape from where she's at now to what it would take to get her back into that type of shape again. Right. And then she's just like, oh, I can't do it anymore. My body doesn't work anymore. I'm like, no, your mind doesn't work anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's just these little things we do. I think these you're training your mind like on a constant basis of doing what it takes to get to that real goal. And I think this podcast is going to be, hard for a lot of people to listen to because they're having to take a real look at themselves. And it's good for me too, to take that too, to listen to this and take that real look at myself too. And be like, okay, am I really putting in all the work to get to my goal? Am I really doing everything I need to do to get to that goal? Or has the goal changed, And if the goal's changed, that's fine, but you got to be honest with yourself about it, Mm-hmm. So I think that this one is going to hit a lot of people in a kind of a bad way at first. And then they're going to have to think about, am I actually doing this? Do I actually want this? Or is my goal really to just be, am I just a fitness enthusiast who wants to compete once in a while? And I think that's awesome because I would put myself in that category. I'm a fitness enthusiast men's physique's gotten so big, I'm never going to compete again. Men's physique's straight up bodybuilding and board shorts now. But maybe do like a photo shoot again or look good on a beach or that type of thing, So that's where I'm at. Nothing wrong with it. But one day before, there was a time where I wanted to be, on the Olympia stage and all that. And then I was honest with myself later on and I was like, no, I'm not willing to put in that work to do that, and, that wasn't for me. I liked the coaching part of it. I just liked the coaching part of it or something. I'm going to be the best at that I can be. So, and genetically I probably was never going to get there anyway. That was like me being really honest with myself too. So, so it's just, you have to figure that out and you have to really accept it and you have to have those tough talks with yourself, like you talked about, and those mm-hmm. realizations. And I think that you had some of that in here too, like excuses versus like valid reasons.
Yeah.
And I think that's I think that's the starting point for this for a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
And I really think, and I think, what I think the problem is too, is that we do see greatness all the time, especially now with like social media and, everyone's so accessible and you can kind of see it and you can see Ashley's journey and what she's doing. And we see greatness all the time. And I think that intuitively we all want to be great. Like, I think that's something within the human mind is we all just want to be great. That's just like an instinctual thing. I want to be the best. I want to be the best there was. We celebrate greatness. Like growing up, we always celebrated greatness. We celebrate it a little bit less now, but seeing someone win the championship, seeing someone win the gold medal, seeing someone win the Olympia, whatever, right? We see that and we just automatically think that's what I want. I'm doing this sport. Okay, that's what I want. Like I'm doing a bikini competition. Okay, I want to win Miss Olympia. Like but there's stages of success, and success is how you define it for yourself personally. There's no set success. Like there's no set, you have to win the Olympia. You have to get to the Olympia. You have to get a pro card to be successful. Your success might be different than Ashley's success. Your success for what you want might be totally different. And you have to like take a step back and be like, okay, did I really even want that? Or was I just trying to be the best me or just get on stage once or, be the most fit person in the gym? Nothing wrong with that. That's a cool goal. I liked doing that. Mm-hmm. That was fun. Yeah. So it's that. I think that's important too. So assess your goal, make sure it's a goal that you're willing to strive for, make sure that it's a goal you're willing to put in work for, make sure that your effort you can put in or you want to put in lines up with that goal, be honest with yourself and reassess. And then if your goal, and also reassess the other way. If your goal is to be the best, your goal is the best, whatever it is you're wanting to do, your goal is to be the Miss Olympia, you have to reassess your actions right now if they line up with that goal. Like that's the more important one out of all this. So I think there's two important ones. One, how much you're willing to put in for a specific goal, and two, is your goal realistic for how much you're willing to put in?
Yeah, so absolutely. And I think a lot of people will look at like someone like you and be like, oh, that's easy for him. He's always motivated, and they kind of work up a scenario in their head why you're able to accomplish these amazing things. And, I think it's important to realize that we all have our days, right? There are days when I'm not motivated either. Sometimes I'm too tired and I just don't feel like being here at the gym, and I'm just like, I just want to have a rest day. I just, I have those days. We all have those days, believe me. But, the way I think of it is, instead of like, if I had that little voice in my head said, just skip the gym, just don't, skip cardio, it's no big deal. I have to quickly assess, like, wait a minute. It's just my mood talking, And at the end of the day, I have a much bigger goal in mind, right? So although I'm not motivated today, I don't feel like going to the gym today or doing cardio, I'm going to do it anyway because my ambition outweighs my motivation, because motivation comes and goes. It's very temporary, but when you're ambitious about something, it's a much stronger feeling. It's
Yeah.
longer lasting. So I think before I skip workouts and do things I shouldn't, or whatever, cave into my diet, or whatever the case may be, before I do that, I have to be like, wait a minute, no, I have a bigger goal in mind. And although I'm not feeling the best right now, tomorrow's going to be better. Okay. Tomorrow's going to be better. I'll wake up in a different mindset and I'll get right to it. So, some days I go to the gym and I don't have the best workouts, but I still go anyway because it's better than nothing. And sometime throughout the week, I try to make up for it. But just realize that no one's perfect and we all have those days where we just don't feel like it. But we don't make excuses why we couldn't go. Because, I could have give you 5 excuses why I'm not sitting in this chair today doing this podcast. I could have give you 5, okay? But no, you're not going to hear about them because I'm here, made it work, okay? You just got to do it.
Yeah.
So if you ever hear that little voice in your head, quickly shut it off, just like a light switch. Like, nope, shut up, I'm doing it. No ifs, ands, or buts, because it's just a mood. Tomorrow's going to be better. I got a goal in mind, and maybe the goal is your show. Who knows what your goal is, but if you allow yourself to give in to these little temptations, again, we're going to make a habit of it and you're not going to reach that ultimate goal because you let those little voices in your mind tell you to do something otherwise, especially like when it comes to food, especially when it comes to that stuff. It's like, do you really want to trade in like 10 minutes of satisfaction of eating the cake for like all this hard work you put in and to sacrifice that goal when it only lasts that short amount of time? Not only that, as you're going to feel guilty afterwards. Yeah. And then you have to come up with excuses to make yourself not feel guilty. So it's like a cycle. You just got to break the cycle.
Yeah, that was very, very eloquently said, Ashley. I agree with it too. And it's funny because we talk about it. When we do these talks, I have self-reflection too, because I've gone through periods of being motivated, unmotivated, motivated, unmotivated. It's hard to keep it up, but what I will say is after doing it for so long, it never turns off. Like if fitness was taken away from me now, I don't know what I would do. Cause I literally wake up and go to sleep thinking about it. It's so I'm programmed to gosh, I wish I could sometimes I want to take a break. Like sometimes I wish my mind would just think about something else. I could just not think about it. Mm-hmm. But that's what it takes, years and years of doing it like this and trying to get to the next level, always working on it. Now it's at a point where it's just like robotic, and I think that's the same thing happens with someone like you on your diet where you've been sticking to it for so long and really, okay, got to work out, got to do cardio, got to work out, got to eat my food. Right. And it's like, it just becomes robotic and becomes so routine that it's just part of life now. And I think that's something that people don't see they don't see that light at the end of the tunnel for that. They just see, oh, it's hard today. Well, remember when you first started working out, it was hard too. Like, when, I've worked in gyms since 2000, which is crazy, but I've worked in gyms since 2000. And what I always find common is the people, and it's funny, there's actually a stat that they had. Gosh, I got to remember the stat now. When I was managing 24-hour fitnesses, they had a stat. It said, if we can get your member to work out 2 times a week for the first 8 weeks, they had a 60% chance of staying a member for the entire year. They would keep working out. So it was like, it just showed, as a masses, if you just create that habit and get people like used to it and get people past the point of discomfort where you're like having to force yourself to the gym. Because I talk about it sometimes where I took a break off the gym one time after a shoulder injury and it turned into a little longer than it should have. It was like 6 months or something. Getting back in the gym was so demanding on my mind. Like I didn't want to be there. It was the first time and I was like, what's wrong with me? I can't believe I don't want to, I had to force myself to go to the gym. And I knew it was wrong that I had to force myself to be at the gym, but it's the same thing. After a couple months of it, I was like, I couldn't wait to get to the gym. It was like, I can't wait to get that done today, get to the gym today. That's like, I just can't wait. And the same thing happens with your food. I think it takes longer with food because it's not like just going to the gym once a day. It's like every meal having to eat it. But I think at a certain point you start just developing that mindset where it's just normal and it's just part of your routine. And that's how you do it. It's just how you wake up and do your day. And so I think that people in the initial phases, in the initial year or so of doing preps and whatnot, it's really, really difficult because you're breaking a lot of years of having, basically whatever you want, whenever you want it. And so I think that that's something that if you're struggling with a lot, understand too that it'll get better with time as long as you adhere to it. But the more you give in, the less likely it is that you're going to stick to it.
Oh yeah, it gets worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
You're like in the beginning, you're probably gonna have a lot of cravings. You might feel hungry and just feel like, oh, this is not as tasty. But it gets better. It does. You just gotta trust and just experiment with like your foods and even your gym routine or even cardio. A lot of people dread cardio. Then find a cardio you like. There's many different kinds of cardio. You know, I always say I do Orange Theory. I like to do Orange Theory because for one, it holds me accountable. If I sign up for the class, I'm going to be there. I already did it. I committed. Even if I wake up feeling unmotivated, if I feel blah, I got to be there because I don't want to get charged a $50 fee. I already signed up for it. And you know what? Afterwards, I'm glad I did. But back to the cardio thing, you know, just finding things that you like will definitely help eliminate some of the excuses, right? So cardio, you can do so many different types of cardio. And as long as your coach is okay with it, you know, some people do kickboxing. Some people just enjoy trail running. Like, it doesn't have to just be like a treadmill facing the wall with no window. You know, that's boring. You can make it fun. But, you know, the whole excuses thing, don't deceive yourself. You know, I think, like I've mentioned, you get in that circle, the habit of giving these excuses. And not only that, but justifications as well, which off season, a lot of people use the justification, oh, I need to put on muscle, so I got to eat a lot of food. In reality, it doesn't translate like you think it does. Or let's be honest, you know it doesn't. You're just using that as a justification, like to eat whatever you want in large amounts, right? And that's an excuse. That's just you're trying to justify a bad habit. And the whole idea of balance, I got to have balance in my life, is also a justification. And you're going to fall into this trap where you're going to start believing yourself, you know? So it's good to have some self-awareness and realize that, do I need this, or am I just justifying a bad action? You know, so it's just, it sucks to kind of realize that you're it's almost like having a little battle with yourself, right? Do I believe my own words, or am I just saying this because I'm making an excuse for something else, you know? Hopefully I worded that correctly.
No, you definitely did. Yeah. And I think that, you know, when I'm looking at your notes here, and one of them was, do people start to believe their own lies, right? Yeah. And I think that falls into that category where, you know, you're constantly reaffirming these bad actions, and then you start believing it. Like, oh, I do need that. I actually did need that break. I really did need that. I really did need to put on whatever 5 pounds this week because my body just needed it. I needed that. I'm like, it's just, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard as a coach because, you know, it's setting someone back so much. You know, so if a 125 pound bikini competitor puts on, you know, 5 pounds in a week, it's probably going to take us like almost a month to get it off. You know, it's not, and that's the problem you run into. It's, you know, people think, oh, I had a bad week. Okay, well then next week I'll neutralize it. I'm like, it doesn't usually work that way. Like, you can offset a month in a week very easily. You can offset 2 months in a week, depending on you can go. I mean, I've seen some crazy things in this bodybuilding world. I mean, I've done this for so long now. I've seen the craziest thing. The craziest one is I saw a bodybuilder a week after the show put himself in a hospital because of how much food he was eating. He got crazy high blood pressure, crazy water retention. They had to have him on an IV with Lasix in it to like help get his water retention down so bad. I was like, dude, what happened? He was like, honestly, dude, I was just a jerk. He's like, I ate everything I saw and I knew it was happening and I kept eating it and I don't know what was wrong with me. He put on 40 something pounds. Like, I think he said 40, it was low 40s, 42, 44 pounds in a week's period.
Oh my God.
After a show. He's like, I don't even understand how I could gain that much weight. He's like, it was just like water. A lot of it was water weight, but I wasn't stopping. He's like, I ate nothing but tilapia and asparagus for the last little bit. And then as soon as I got done with the show, I just started eating, you know? And I'm like, you know, he's like, I regret it so much, not just because I was in the hospital. He's like, I knew I was going to be fine. He's like, but I regret it so much because I literally lost all 16 weeks of progress in a week. He's like, when I got out of the hospital, the water was actually done and gone. He's like, I still had like 30 pounds of fat on me, 25 pounds of fat on me. He's like, it's so crazy how fast it can happen. And, it's like, I just think of it as, man, your time, all that time on the treadmill, all that time, all those missed meals, like those events and all those things that we're talking about now, like you could probably do one of those now, like, get away with it, but you did it for a week straight. And next thing you know, you're back in a 16, 20 week prep in a week. It's
Life
crazy.
Is so unfair.
So unfair.
It's just not worth that, just backtracking that much just from, a mistake. And don't get me wrong. I think it's kind of normal for somebody along the way, especially if they're a rookie, to mess up and have a bad week or whatever. But it's important not to make not to make a habit of that. If it's like a day where they just went all out and just couldn't control, it sucks. It does, because you just backtracked a lot. But I think it's important to realize what you did wrong, not to justify it. Don't make excuses. You're going to learn from it, and not to make a habit of that. You just got to move forward. You can't just like solely just drag on that for a long time, but just know that, you messed up, own up to it, move forward.
Yeah. And I think
it's going to be tough, but got to move forward.
That's the biggest part, especially as a coach. I will say that, and I'm probably going to get a couple clients this might even like apply to it. I'm not trying to direct it at you guys, but as a coach, it does suck too, because you want to say those things. You want to say, no, you just messed up. Like, I want to just like grab them, like, no, you messed up. Like, no, you didn't need it. No, you didn't need that. No, you just messed up. Like, can you please, let's grow from this. You just messed up. Right. But at that time they're already feeling really sensitive and really bad. Right. And they're like already beating up on themselves. And you're like, okay, which route do I take here? Do I say, hey, and call it how it is and be like, no, you messed up and we probably have to pull out of the show at this point? Or do I, it's tough as a coach, because you just you just wish you could just have everyone adhere 100%, but you understand it's not going to happen. I mean, I understand not everyone's going to hear 100%. I don't have a problem with that, but I do have issue when someone's like constantly lying to themselves and lying to me, and like almost they put you in a position of where you don't want to say anything because they feel like they need it. It's a tough thing as a coach, because they're like, oh, I just needed it. And you just want to be like, no. You didn't. Absolutely not. Because I did it. I mean, I went keto for like 18 months or something straight. I mean, I've had the most extreme diets and the most extreme preps and the most extreme everything. And I'm like, I've done it. Like I've given in, and like after shows or something where I didn't do good. And I didn't say I needed it. I just said I ate like an ass and I shouldn't have done that, and I felt terrible because of it. And I learned, it took me 3 times, but I owned it. It was like, that was stupid. Like eating to the point where I threw up, like involuntarily, of course. That was stupid. Like, why did I do that? And then actually it took, for some people it might, that's what it took. It took me that. Like it was like I think it was my third show, and I ate so much that I threw up, and I was like, why would I do that? And then I just never ate after that again. I never even had like a cheat meal after that again, like a post show big cheat meal. Like it would just be like steak or something like that after that. Cause I just like, I don't want to go through that again. That was terrible.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like some people are different. Some people like want to hear that, but like they want the wake up call. But again, most people I think are in that sensitive state and they're already feeling kind of guilty about it or whatever. I think the most important thing to realize is just not to just own up to it. Yeah. I think if you just own up to it, not think like, oh, I did this and this because of this, or I needed it. Like my body just needed all this cake and ice cream. Like, I think as long as they realize it was a slip up and just to not make a habit of it, you just got to move forward because you can't drag on it for too long or you're going to be grumpy pants forever. Right. So it's just like, hey, you know what? This is a slip up. We got to move forward though. It's not going to happen again. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Deal. All right, let's move forward.
Yeah, and I think that's a real opportunity too if a client does do that. Yeah. And I think if you guys are listening to this and you guys are doing that and you have coaches out there, and I'm sure most of the people listening to this have a coach of some type, the coaches I think would appreciate it if you just said, hey, I messed up, instead of saying I needed it. Because then the coach can be like, okay, what do we do to resolve your cravings for you messing up? So like my solutions for people who are having that issue, and I don't think everyone should be like, I don't think everyone should be. I don't think everyone can be like Ashley, where they're just sticking to their diet, right? Where they don't have that desire. I think that a large majority of people are going to have that desire for that meal, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but we have to face those facts, right? I'm not I'll face those facts. I'm not willing to be as dedicated as Ashley is right now. It's not, it's purely for desire. If I really trained my mind, I probably could get there, but I'm being honest with myself. I'm not going to do that right now. Right. So if I had a coach, I would write in and be like, hey, I would love to be like that, but I don't want to do that right now. I want to have whatever. Right. So if you're that person and you're trying to be, you're adhered to your diet as much as Ashley is, you got to be honest with yourself and be honest with your coach and whatever too, because you might have these bad weeks if you don't, and just give in. So if you come to the coach, say, hey, I messed up. I keep having these cravings. I don't know why I'm having these cravings so bad or why I'm giving in. What do you think we can do? I would tell that client, hey, let's do a free meal once a week. We're going to reduce your total calories of the rest of your days, but we're going to add those calories to one day throughout the week. Maybe it's 1,200 calorie free meal. And that day, every day that week, you can eat that 1,200 calorie free meal. And you're essentially paying for it by not having whatever X amount of carbs or whatever in these meals or this meal or whatever. And then you can have whatever you want once a week. And then you can look forward to that. And then you're kind of giving into that craving at 1,200 calories, at 1,500 calories, whatever it is, right? Or maybe daily, instead of having a strict meal plan for all 5 meals, one of those meals is a macro meal and you can put it together however you want. Or maybe post-workout, we can give you any sugars that you want to eat post-workout where you it helps you with these cravings, right? Because now it becomes, for the coach, it becomes, okay, how do we find a solution versus, oh, they just needed it. They think they just needed it. Let's move on and just stick to the same diet, right? Stick to the same thing that caused that problem. So if you're honest and open, your coach should hopefully have a solution for you. Now, if you're still cheating when you're doing all those things already, maybe you have to pick a different goal, right? So that would be kind of my solutions for it, because I don't think, and I don't want everyone to get this wrong, I don't think everyone should be a robot where they can only eat chicken every meal, muscle egg in the morning, / Team Elite Physique on muscle egg for a discount. Help eat Ashley. and you do eat it every morning though.
I do.
Yeah. and stick to that type of diet. It's not possible for everyone to do that. So I think that the important thing is giving into that too, and just telling your coach, hey, give us something to work with, give us something to work with. So what else we got, Ashley, with that?
I think we just said it all.
Yeah.
I think that we covered a lot there.
So
I'll give a little summary here.
Yeah.
Here's a summary. Recognize an excuse versus a valid reason. That's point 1. That's very important. I mean, is it something like, oh, I couldn't come to the gym today because I had to take my grandma to the hospital? Or is it just because you felt lazy, right? Excuses versus valid reasons. Also, don't make excuses, make solutions, right? We're not getting anywhere if we just keep making excuses all the time. Don't just talk the talk, walk the walk. That's a big one for me. Okay. Basically, don't tell me, show me. So, live up to your words. If you're going to say your words, live up to it. Am I missing anything else?
No, that was great. And I think that was one of the more rare occasions where we see Coach Ashley step out of the athlete Ashley too, and really this isn't
for anybody in particular, but
no, I know that
this is my what I see happen all the time with everything, not even just fitness.
I love it. I love when you come out as Coach Ashley sometimes, because that's like a great coaching advice right there. That was like who is that? There's a Tommy Lasorda. He was the Dodgers coach, and he was like the most motivating guy, and he would say these things, and he would say them with he would just say them in a very friendly but very motivating way. Like you couldn't leave a conversation with him without being more motivated. He was always kind of known for that. It was very Tommy Lasorda-esque of you. That was great. Yeah.
Really? Because I thought I was being a little meanie.
No, there's a point, right? There's a point where people need that realism. They need that you to be real, and they need to hear it. People need to hear that. That's a lot of these motivational talkers that are in your face and that not too. People are why do they like this guy? He's so in your face. Because people need to hear the reality of things. Everything can't be sugar coated. Yeah. So that was good. So thank you for that. Thank you for that, Coach Ashley. So anyway, we have to address this. We have a bobblehead Adam from Taryn. Thanks, Taryn.
I love that.
We're out. Listen to Ashley.